We have all of the world of Angelechy for you today. We also have some Radiant Typhoon action and more Mitsurugi for this Kong's event. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button, and welcome to your top 24 for the Kong's event. So this build is sporting on more of the standardized branded package, but you do see more Pharah action coming in with not only one Pharah in the main deck, they have two more Pharahs down here in the side deck for them to be able to rotate into. And as I have seen for this event, Pharah was an absolutely crazy card to revolve off of the Mind Shuffle, just to pitch it, trigger the revive, and steal something on the opponent's field. It was a big help. Next up, we get to see Angelechy in our Mind Shuffle deck. It's actually a pretty small package built in the main deck, but you get to see more of the tools down here in the extra deck. The cool thing with this deck is, obviously, you have access to level 8s. Which is kind of cool through the effect of, Branded and Ecclesia, getting you that access into the Null Gainer, which just gets you into Witness of the Ancients, which reverse plays things. And then, of course, we're doing Mind Shuffle shenanigans, but that's actually a pretty cool idea. Next up, we have more Mind Shuffle. I think we found every Mind Shuffle duelist down here that we could. This build bringing another Pharah into the main deck here. We're also playing the Super Polys to be able to kind of push through things on the opponent's field, which is kind of nice. We also have Dominus Impulses. This is kind of a nice change of pace. I feel like I've not really seen a lot of people trying out this concept, but I think that this does kind of help push through some of the situations. Also, this incredibly good card is pretty good. Next up here, we have Radiant Typhoon, actually playing the triple pot of X-Trap to be able to get that draw power that this deck wants to see. But I also see that we've chosen to play a Gozen match down here. So we can basically use Gozen match as that very annoying floodgate just to be able to pressure the opponent. That's hilarious. But, I mean, this also just proves, how good Radiant Typhoon can be at just being an annoying strategy, but I don't expect anything less from this deck, wholeheartedly. Next up here, we have more Malice. There's a lot of Malice down here in top 24, top 32. I see this list is playing, yes, the Dark Ruler No More for the Hadoken. We've also chosen to play Triple Salesman. This is kind of an interesting little tech choice, right? Being able to salesban any problematic card that you think is going to stop your Malice plays from resolving. I mean, this is something that this deck probably needed to have. If you're in a situation where, you're going to lose, this actually is pretty gosh darn good. Next up here, we get to see Harmonia and Friends. Spells only choose to play the one Ogre with the 2 copies of Ghost Spell, which is kind of nice. I also see, obviously, Duelist Genesis. We're also playing 2 Crowns, 2 Droplets. Very interesting to see the kind of rollback on these. You're still seeing play with them, but obviously, we're reducing numbers. And we're also playing Pause Sloth. I guess going second, to go find these cards, it's not like Sloth won't grant you the ability to dig further into the deck, find those key cards for you. Next up, we have some Elf Note action. I swear these Elf Note decks are pretty much figured out at this point. I mean, you have your standardized hand traps built in, what other decisions you want to build. And then the side decks where things kind of get techie. I do see, we do have the one Mudora, but this list is choosing to play the Hyper Librarian. So, instead of going down the Fiendsmith combo on the 5, we can stop by the Hyper Librarian and kind of continue on along with the Synchro Cluster play line that this deck, wants to be able to do, which just nets you free draw power every single turn. Okay. Next up is more of our Malice. As you can see, still going with the trap cards here. The main decks, I think, are pretty much figured out. This list, we see the Illusion Gate. You have the Thrust to go into the different dimension ground, which is pretty good. But having Thrust be an alternating card for you is actually not too bad. Obviously, the real MVP here is usually the fact the Illusion Gate just bridges you into some nonsense just to be able to get the job done. So that's really, really cool. Now, moving on down to top 32, the lower half, we do get to see the Mitsurugi Good Stuff special. We once again get to see that Corrupted Ritual Records has just moved right on into this deck. We don't really get access to do the crazy Demise plays because we don't have Demise yet. I think when we do get Demise, I think this deck will kind of change some of its perspectives on the way that it wants to play, but I do think for now that this is just going to be use the Corrupted Ritual Records to be the consistent enabler the deck wants. Angelechy, this is a pure build. Okay. So we are using Wallbaz, obviously, as your monster lineup to be able to bridge into the clutch Null Gainer. Null Gainer is going to be able to, obviously, get into Witness of the Ancients, which will just start the entire deck's premise. Which is really, really cool, honestly. It's awesome to see because, Clutch Null Gainer does, in fact, exist. This deck just has, one of the coolest setup methods to go. Next up, we have Blitzclick. This is actually refreshing to see this deck kind of coming to the table. I do see that we have some side deck openings down here that could probably be filled. I also see this list chose not to main deck any Thunder Kings. They just chose to side deck them if they need to bring them in, which I guess is fine. So this also chose to play 2 extra to kind of dig on into those options if need be. And of course, we are playing the 1 Astrolama Urania. This just acts as kind of a decent boss monster, but I think this list needs a little bit more work, honestly. Next up, we get to see the good stuff working. This is where the Crimson Call comes on in, because, making the Crimson King gets you into this, and then it's just one more step. Instead of having to commit the normal summon to the Soul Resonator, we can actually beam on through this method of the combo line to be able to kind of achieve what we want. It does, in fact, work. Might not be the most consistent approach, but I do like the Crimson Call within the deck. Kind of pick your poison and go. Next up here, we get to see Yummy Fiendsmith. What a classic, actually. Still seeing this deck going very well. I mean, obviously, the triple Fiendsmith track gets you into more of your combo lines to kind of get you set up and go. Obviously, you're still going to play the Hornet Drones because this is still the best facilitators of being able to go down the combo lines and go. Like, honestly, the fact you still have full access to all the Sky Striker stuff just helps this deck out so much. It's insane. Next up, we have more Malice. I told you there's so many Malice challengers right now. This list chose to play the Synat Conflict in the side deck, which is kind of funny, honestly, but I do appreciate actually having access to the Conflict because, it does get you a, setup. I see we're also choosing to play 2 Thrust. And, of course, we're doing the Microcoder in here. Ooh, this build also chose to have the Triple Crown as more of like the defensive option for you to be able to get set up and work with. Not too bad. Next up, we have the Cool Tunes. Still sporting off the double Duelist Genesis because, it's still the best facilitator. Now, this build also chose to bring in the triple Illusion Gate. Being able to hammer in all of the brokenness that comes with this card is very, very good. I also see we do have the Mana DM reframing in here to be able to bridge into, post-side decking. This is for when you want to go first. It's always going to be the sort of situation that the reframing, puts you in. And then our last list out of the top cut is Angelechy with Cool Tune. Yeah, one duelist managed to bring this idea to the table, and it actually, I guess, worked out. I was curious how much of their extra deck they were going to dedicate, but they only put in one of each of the slots here to be able to kind of filter through this. And it looks, it's techie, to say the least. You're not going to get like the big crazy surprise that I feel like you're kind of expecting out of this list. Now I got some food for thoughts here. I'll probably dissect this tournament a little bit more later, but Angelechy had an amazing showing out of this event. The amount of players that were willing to sit down and try out Angelechy. They wanted to experiment with the ideas and the hybrid builds that came with this actually far exceeded my expectations. I really thought that, we might see, maybe 1 to 2, because it's usually TCG, TCG exclusive syndrome where people are like, well, it's bad. But in terms of, this deck just taking off and being an early challenger here, I'm honestly impressed that we got another decent TCG exclusive archetype. The fact that we actually have a decent list here that is actually working out. I mean, even so, you got to see basically a normal Angelechy deck running it through the tournament. That's already, impressive. And as we're heading on into competitive season here, I think this is going to paint a pretty cool picture that there's a lot of cool things you can do. Mind Shuffles here to really showcase. Elf Note is doing, the beginning stages of what you would expect. And obviously, with all of this information coming out of the open now, I think you're going to have a decent idea of where you want to take this format. But obviously, Nats is 2 weeks away. at least for the NAWCQ. There's going to be a lot more to come, and honestly, I'm very excited for it. So please, comment down below, tell me what you guys think. See your beautiful faces back here in day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.